Demon Puppets. Short story. Once upon a time, there was a man who had everything he ever wanted: his wife, 3 kids, and a job. Although he is a puppet maker who lived in a poor area with commoners, he was indubitably joyful. The nobles, however, lived in the wealthy area above them, but were very aggressive towards the commoners. One noble said with a disgusted tone, "There are commoners everywhere. They are like an illness to our society." Although the commoners were in the dust and had no respect, they lived as proud citizens of this country. However, the fact couldn't be ignored. The stronger and wealthier the nobles are, the stronger their control over the weak. The puppet builder was named Drake. Although he was a commoner just like any other citizen, he had an outstanding sense of justice. He was very grateful that he had a huge family who always looks after him. This is why, despite all the suffering, nothing can faze him. Because he needed money to keep his family happy, he would wake up at 4 and go to work. But there's always a quarrel at his shop, where nobles coming in and out of his shop, destroying some of his puppets that they felt were non-appealing to the eye. Unsatisfied with the damage they have done, they leave the shop in total destruction. Drake used to compensate for the time lost and the damage at his own expense. However, returns home at a late hour to clean the mess destroyed by the nobles, and hardly sold anything. Even so, he didn't give up and kept working his back off. Because of the work, he hardly had enough time to spend with his children. He had 2 boys and a girl. The older brother was named Joe, the younger sister was named Kayla, and his middle child was named Smith. One day, all of his joy ended, the only thing that kept him going, because a bunch of nobles arrived at his house and threw a lamp at his property. James, the noble, said with a smug smile, "You're a bad seller, and your puppets are ugly, so this is a lesson for you. Hope you go to hell, you worthless puppet maker." Drake said with an angry tone, "Take that back, you trash!" James was surprised because no one has ever stood up to him like that. So he replied with shock but confidence, "Know your place. My gang here will have you executed for this, if you don't watch it. If you don't want that to happen, kneel on the ground and say, 'I'm a worthless dog.'" The anger that he felt awakened the demon inside him. He was gifted with powers from the Demon King himself, and he used the demon's power to get his revenge on the world, which caused the downfall of his life and the suffering of those around him. Just before this day, when the clock had just turned 1 a.m., Drake was starting to get ready to work. Then he started preparing to open the shop, when he found an interesting book laying under his desk. He was curious, so he took it. After work, Drake went to his small cottage, which couldn't been more than a small cottage, but had enough spirit to call it a mansion. The house was deadly silent, except for the small snoring sounds from his wife and kids, and the small mumbles from Smith about apple pie. Because the light that swept from the windows made reading in his favorite chair that looked very inviting, so he started reading the books that he found before he went to bed. Most of the commoners were illiterate, but Drake was one exception, since his family taught him to read and write just before they died on a cruise to Hawaii. It was about a legend where the protagonist of the story finds a tree that produced infinite wood that he used to create ships with. It also explained his journey in daylight. It was hot in North Africa that his forehead was starting to boil from the heat. He walked for several days without food and water, hoping to find a tree to achieve his desires. Drake was enjoying himself, but there was a torn page in the book, so he couldn't read what happened next, but simply read after the torn page. It was stated that when he found the tree, he gained a fortune in just a month, but one day, all his hours of selling, the protagonist regretted finding the tree, because his world turned upside down. The truth still remains in the torn pages. The protagonist knew that the tree was dangerous, so he tried to destroy the tree to prevent the creation of more something. An ink dropped on this word so Drake couldn't quite make sense of it. What Drake didn't know was that the possessed demons will start a massacre and a world crisis. So the protagonist wanted to destroy the tree, but it couldn't be destroyed, since it kept regenerating. Only one person can destroy this tree, but the protagonist didn't have an idea about his identity. All the protagonist can do was hide it, where no one could reach it. The protagonist also hid a map that locates the tree in a jungle in North Africa. He was waiting for that person. The protagonist wrote this map before dying in his luxurious house on his favorite office, where he was holding the map. The key that determines this world's fate. Drake wondered why the tree was special. It kept swirling in his thoughts, so he couldn't sleep, because he was determined to find the secrets of the legend, since he believed in superstitions, and discover if the tree was a myth or reality. Drake didn't figure out that the tree was cursed, and that it nearly destroyed the world. However, Drake knew that every good thing has an equal loss in exchange for it, so he had his doubt. After reading this book, all Drake thought of was to find a tree, to make puppets with no resources required, and bring endless joy to children. But he wondered who wanted to tear these pages. He didn't know until later that it was the former owner of the shop, because the owner feared that whomever finds this map might not be the one to save it, but simply take advantage of it. Because of this era, the world is corrupted. Drake ended the flashback and went to the present state. The noble punched Drake, which caused him to hit his head on the ground urgently. Drake lost his consciousness and was dreaming that he found the tree and was cutting a branch little by little, and other branches were growing after he cut them. The nobleman ordered his men to kill Drake and had dirty thoughts towards Kayla and Drake's wife. Afterwards, he continued the dream and saw his wife, children's faces, and everything fading with no trace. The last thing he saw was a puppet that looked possessed. It was a horrifying face. Then it was replaced with a weird figure. It was the Demon King. He said with a deep voice, "Awake me, mere human, and all of your dreams will come true. I will help you destroy those nobles and make you and those around you be saved." The sadness of seeing you and the beloved ones suffer brought me despair. I pity you. I wish to you achieved your dreams. You will have to let go of everything you own and revive the Demon King of all puppets to your word. Drake replied with a frightened expression, "Who are you?" The Demon King replied, "I'm the Demon King, obviously. If you agree to my terms, I will lend you my power, and you will have the tree you desire." Drake laughed a loud laugh, saying, "I know it was real." Drake also asked the demon if there were any drawbacks. The king didn't lie about the drawbacks, so he told him that he will turn into a half demon and half human. Drake was hesitant and asked him, "What if I don't help you?" The demon sneered and said, "You will be killed by the noblemen along with your 2 sons, and your wife and daughter will be physically abused." So there was no time to think. Drake agreed. Drake was gifted the ability to kill people just by looking at them by the Demon King. The darkness in his eyes was intimidating, that the noblemen cowered in fear. Drake couldn't forgive them, so he killed the group of noblemen, which was one look. Then the Demon King said his last word, which was, "Farewell, but I know we will meet again in the near future." That's it for this video. If you want to check out the whole story, link in the description. Bye!